Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and elite start to this nice Friday morning. It's the last Friday of the year, baby. It's the last Friday of the year, and very little has changed. Very little has changed, but I do expect a lot to be changing in Q1 of 2023. With that in mind, this is going to be a preparation of what is to come in the not so distant future. Other than that, I want to wish you the best for this last, I guess, couple days of the year 2022. Don't expect much change in 2023 because you know what? It's just another damn day. Anyways, let's just jump right into it right now. Make this one nice and short and sweet. Starting off over here on the 5-day time frame for CME. So we are going to be looking at the stochastic oscillator, which actually is going to be closing today, that being the 5-day time frame. And as you can see, the current momentum pivot is to the downside as long as CME is below 16,350 upon closure. Keep in mind that CME is operating on a nice little price discount compared to spot price action. It's actually trading below that level as of right now, currently at 16,315. So ultimately, as long as CME is here or lower by end of day, we will see momentum once again turn to the downside on the 5-day time frame and also remain within the bearish control zone. So ultimately, short term, yes, still pressure onto the downside. This is essentially a culmination or a combination of the analysis that I've been putting out for about a week now, saying that short term risk is to the downside. After the short term, more around medium term, yeah, I do think that Bitcoin's setting up for a bounce here. So with that said, let's complete the analysis here. And in this case, the 3-day time frame going in from whether it's CME or spot price action, it's all one and the same right now. We do still see hidden bearish divergence on the 3-day time frame. So not only do we see multiple drives of hidden bearish divergence, but we also see a break below the moving average. Once again, the EMA right there. And assuming that it does close here or lower by end of day, not only will we see the 5-day stochastic momentum turn down, but the 3-day RSI will very likely break back into the bearish control zone. Now, here's the thing. While I do expect this one to come lower in the short term, there will naturally be an opportunity for some pretty significant bullish divergence. In fact, multiple drives coming off the lows, but that would first imply that Bitcoin comes down reasonably close, somewhere around the current lows. I do think it's about right there. Anyways, moving on to the next thing, we still have the 2-day setup over here. It is very, 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 very close to actually firing off. This would be the counterpoint to what I'm saying. In essence, that not only, if this comes to fruition, that not only would the short term be down, but you can expect new lows. Now, I am not of that opinion, actually. My opinion is that Bitcoin probably retests somewhere around the current lows, but ultimately holds those lows and sets up for a big bounce, which I'll go over probably Sunday, maybe Monday, when it's a little more relevant. But for right now, this would be the one chart that I could show that would bias, or not necessarily bias me, but gives me a statistical setup that does suggest that, this, is actually rather likely to make new lows. And so what is it? It's a volatility versus stochastic momentum signature. Volatility at extreme lows. Anytime that we've seen this on CME for the full history of CME, the expansion phase that naturally follows after those extreme lows has led to an average move of nearly 40% over the course of about 3.5 weeks. Again, these are averages. There's some variance within this. And the stochastic also has been correcting in the direction of that volatility expansion 9 out of 11 times, which gives it close to an 82% strike rate. So in this case, why am I bringing this up? Well, the 2-day time frame is closing today alongside the 5-day time frame, alongside the weekly and the monthly for CME, all coming in today. And as long as Bitcoin on CME is below 16,600, which right now it's more than $300 below, well, we will see the 2-day time frame stochastic oscillator remain with downside momentum, which does imply that there's a higher probability based off of this setup over here that, well, Bitcoin not only just tests around the downside, but, puts in a significant move. In this case, somewhere between like 30% to, even in the shallow 40s. So ultimately, if we were to take those numbers at face value, that would imply Bitcoin on new lows. Now, like I said, there is some variance within these reads. In fact, we do have a more recent iteration of this. This was back in August of the year 2022, where the move to the downside was about 18% or just under 18%. So it's not out of the question to get moves that are less than what we've seen over here. Obviously, these are not like certainties, but they do give us a statistical way of kind of looking at things and identifying them. But thus far, that is the lowest. That's actually the lowest. The second lowest is about almost 24%. That was basically near the end of last year, coming off of the all-time highs, in fact. So if we were to apply those numbers to the current trajectory, again, going with like kind of the outliers on the downside, 20% basically off of the current high puts Bitcoin back around the current low. Keep in mind, CME has already traded down towards like 14,800 to 14,900. That's basically what 20% off of the current high would look like. Now, of course, if it goes for the more average of that move, in this case, 40%, well, that's going to put Bitcoin a little bit closer to about $12,000. So that would be the risk. And how would I essentially define that is the most likely thing to be happening? Well, I need to see a closure on a higher time frame below the current lows on CME, which is like just below $15,000 basically. If you see something like that, then yeah, throw it all away, baby. We're going fucking down. Not we're going down, but Bitcoin's going down, and then we're going to go down on Bitcoin altogether, holding hands. It's going to be absolutely glorious and beautiful. And that is the end of this channel. No, no, just kidding. Or maybe, who knows? But yes, so that would be the risk here. But until then, personally speaking, and I'll explain why soon, I don't think that Bitcoin's going to actually be closing on new lows significantly, at least. Anyways, moving on to the next thing, I do want to go over the lower term time frame stochastic oscillators, just because, just kind of checking on them, see where we're at right now. And as you can see, nope, I'm on the wrong damn chart. Hold on. It's not really anything new here. So let me just mosey on over to, where's my... we can just use this chart over here. That's fine. We can start off with the daily. Daily stochastic momentum remains to the downside alongside extremely low volatility as long as Bitcoin's below 16,750 on CME, which it's well below right now. 12-hour time frame, also down as long as Bitcoin's below 16,450. 6-hour time frame, also down as long as Bitcoin's below 16,300, which is kind of dancing around right now, so not as dangerous there. 4-hour time frame, however, has a different look. Well, kind of. As long as Bitcoin's below 16,400, momentum remains to the downside and in the bearish control zone. And the hourly is also down as long as Bitcoin's below 16,400. So, you'll likely notice that most of these momentum oscillators here, the positioning of them, the posture of them, is basically at extreme lows already. So, while I do think that short term, it probably does have another stab lower, maybe until like the mid to upper 15s, something like that. I don't think it has the momentum to really break towards massively new lows as of right now. I would expect at least a bounce from those regions. And now that I recognize it, on the daily stochastic oscillator right here, there is a nice little regression coming in from the last few lows that we have seen going back to June of this year before the June rally. And then, of course, the September rally as well, which the daily will be meeting up with. Technically, it's going to be on Monday because, it's not trading over the weekend. Or, well, actually, it might be Tuesday because I'm sure that Monday is probably going to be an off day. Yeah, I'm seeing that as literally the first trading day of the year after the first. Yes. Okay. So fair enough. Tuesday, somewhere around there. But ultimately in the short term, that is risk to the downside still. Anyways, now that we've gone through that, I need to explain why I believe that it's unlikely for Bitcoin to make new lows on this current drive to the downside. And while I'm not necessarily like given a hard area as to where I'm like Bitcoin will not go below this region, no, there's nothing like that. There's no such thing as that. There's just statistics and probabilities at the end of the day. Bitcoin can do whatever the fuck it wants, as can any asset for that matter. But in this case, if we're looking at a statistical analysis of the basically the full history of the daily here, 20,000 bars is what TradingView Premium allows us to do. We can see that 50% of the historical returns range basically comes at at this current region between about 18,400 to the upside versus about 15,800 to the downside. This is not on CME. This is, by the way, on spot price action. On CME, it's actually significantly lower. It's like 14. It's basically around the current low, so to speak. So I would actually trust this chart over here a little bit more, simply because it has more price action data, more history here compared to CME, because it really does matter like how much it's pulling from. But yeah, that would be kind of a counterpoint to what I'm saying. Regardless of that, actually the same sort of analysis applies basically. The bottom side of this 50% range low still comes in around about 15,800. So at the very least, we're likely to see a bounce around there. If Bitcoin starts to close below that region, then yes, you're probably looking towards that $12,500 region, with maybe a stop along the way around like upper 13, something like that would kind of make sense. But until then, I still think what's most likely to happen is you get maybe a drive down here, something like that would be fine. Bounces around a little bit and then sets up for a big bounce in January, February of this coming year. Something like that would kind of make sense. Anywhere above December high at 18,400, and I'd really be looking for a big leg up into the $20,000 territory, somewhere around like $21,000, give or take a little bit from that number. Anyways, yes, we've got that. I also wanted to, also on the topic of why I don't think that Bitcoin's really set up to like make massively new lows here. Looking at the global open interest, I mean, we're at the same levels that we saw about a little bit more than 2 years ago in 2020, around like May, June time, when Bitcoin was trading at like $8,000 to $9,000. There's just not enough like longs to liquidate to get price action that low, in my opinion, right now. We'd really want to see like a spike up and then come back down if that's going to be happening. And right now it's like literally at the fucking lows. So personally speaking, I think it's very unlikely that we see new lows from here. Just a retest of the current lows or somewhere reasonably close to them. Anyways, I'll leave this analysis on this note over here. I guess it's already kind of a little bit longer, but we are coming into it's the last day of trading for CME and for traditional markets as well. Just looking at NASDAQ and triple Qs, which are pretty much the same chart as of right now, you can see that the whole October and November rally has essentially been undone, and it's already retesting around the lows. Kind of expect Bitcoin to do, Bitcoin doing something relatively similar to that is completely reasonable at this moment. And then again, probably sets up for a bounce coming into, next year. Looking at the quarterly, again, looking at something like this, I think you have a short-term pivot, but well, it's probably short-term. We'll get to that one later, I suppose. Anyways, that's probably a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. I hope that it was in some way helpful. I wish you all the best for the last couple of days here of 2022. Yeah, 2022. As always, we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll be able to do a little bit more cool stuff on the higher term timeframes, and then big one on Sunday, obviously, as we get the official first day of 2023. Other than that, wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.